Tonight, small towns trying to survive in uncertain times.
It's just going to trickle down. Less hours, less people spending money.
Revealing the human cost of a plant closure.
When your main industry goes down, everybody in our community would suffer.
The manufacturing layoffs putting local labor and communities at risk. Manitoba's untapped economic resource.
It allows the vast resources of Western Canada access to global markets.
Why Churchill's northern port could help strengthen trade across the pond.
It's just a matter of putting some money into the infrastructure again.
And the Buy Canadian movement goes to the dogs.
People were coming in right away saying they only wanted Canadian products.
How patriotism is impacting what your pets eat. Plus, stumbling upon the sale of some unexpected sports memorabilia.
It was, wow, I'm shocked.
The discovery that led to a meaningful connection with a former Canadian Olympian.
Thank you, John Watt. Yes, it's really nice and it's touching.
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
Good evening. The economic challenges confronting Canadians is coming into full view as hundreds of people in a small Ontario town face the reality this weekend of mass layoffs with the shutdown of a GM assembly plant. The upheaval highlighting the vulnerability of communities across the country. CTV's Kamal Karamali on the cuts and the consequences.
Lately, business had been heating up. Here at this Italian restaurant in Ingersoll, Ontario.
Margarita.
Until yesterday, when all business plans were doused in cold water.
Local layoff is definitely going to affect the community.
Layoffs at the biggest employer in town means the entire community will be hit, including Mike Gibson's restaurant.
It's just going to trickle down. Less hours, less people spending money.
The General Motors Cami assembly plant will temporarily shut down next week. It'll then reopen in May for limited production, then shutter again until the fall, reopening in October at reduced capacity. Not because of U.S. tariffs, but because of slowing demand for the bright drop electric vehicles. And that means nearly 500 workers will be off the job indefinitely. Everyone here knows someone who was impacted.
There's a few people in our building that are affected by it.
In a town of 13,000 people, losing that many jobs is expected to have a ripple effect that would cause waves in almost every industry in Ingersoll.
Everything that we have here, from the coffee shops to a grocery store, we have a new one under construction. These things are all planned with those jobs in mind.
And that could even mean the population may dwindle.
There will be some people that will leave the facility.
On top of that, as the threat of U.S. tariffs on Canadian sectors continues, other cities like Windsor fear a similar fate.
With an election on the horizon right now, too, it makes it even more uncertain what's going to happen with our jobs.
Here at Miss Ingersoll restaurant, owner Joe Freitas is bracing for a loss in business, but is trying to remain optimistic.
We're kind of lucky that we have the same repeat customers.
In his community's ability to persevere.
Keep the quality up and the consistency, and we should be okay.
When it's needed the most. Kamal Karamali, CTV News, Ingersoll, Ontario.
To the campaign trail now, where not everyone was out today pitching platforms. Mark Carney taking a second day away, leading to a pair of his political rivals accusing the Liberal leader of hiding. CTV's Colton Prale now with a look at what's shaping day 21 of the federal election campaign.
Campaigning on the border of the Nepean riding where Mark Carney is running, Pierre Poilievre is looking to Canada's veterans to garner support.
I will ensure veterans' benefits are in place before they leave the military and will automatically approve disability applications if they are not treated within 16 weeks.
The Conservative leader promising better access to care and a smoother transition into civilian life, something he says the Liberals failed to do. But when asked about Stephen Harper's decision to close 9 veterans' offices, Poilievre said it wasn't a problem.
I have not encountered a single veteran says that he needs more bureaucracy. What they're saying is actually they need less bureaucracy.
Mark Carney wasn't on the campaign trail Saturday or Friday, something both Pierre Poilievre and Yves-François Blanchet took aim at.
Candidate for the Liberals as seldom seen as possible, saying as little as possible, and hiding as much as possible.
Instead, the Liberals expanded on a previous announcement, saying they would create a year-long pass that would give children free access to national galleries, museums, and travel on Via Rail. Jagmeet Singh was in Northern Ontario, holding one of his few rallies of the campaign. The NDP looking to secure a pair of seats that have been safe, but like most Orange ridings across the country, their future is in question.
Right now, in the nano seat projections, we have the New Democrats declared for three ridings at a minimum. They might not even form official party status.
The latest polling shows the NDP up slightly, but still below 10%, while the Conservatives have fallen further behind the Liberals, the gap now 6 points. In BC, the Green Party calling for free tuition for college and university students and cancelling student loan interest. Heather.
Colton, thank you. As mentioned, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is in Northern Ontario, where two of his party's longtime MPs are not running again. And as CTV's Abigail Beeman reports, that's not the only challenge parties face while vying for votes in that region.
2 of the 5 seats the NDP holds in Ontario are here in Northern Ontario, but New Democrats face 2 challenges in this election. Neither incumbent is running again, and there are changes to riding borders. First of all, Charlie Angus and Carol Hughes are 2 veteran MPs, and in the case of Angus specifically, very well known. Neither are running in this election. And then there's the issue of riding redistribution. Those are changes made to ridings based on population every 10 years. New in this election, Ontario on the whole picked up 1 seat, but Northern Ontario actually lost a seat. Hughes' riding was absorbed by the surrounding ones. And this has meant a challenge for candidates of all stripes having to introduce themselves to new communities, door knock across wider territories in some cases, and some voters not clear about which riding they're in. Polling has steadily put the NDP at risk of losing the seats here, putting this region in play in a big way. We know on this trip, Jagmeet Singh will be focused on issues important to northern communities: healthcare, cost of living, housing, through the lens of the different impact felt in more rural or remote areas. The Conservatives have made a trip to Northern Ontario, where they've targeted worker votes, which have traditionally been NDP territory. There is a large working class and rural element to this part of the province. While the Liberals have not yet made a Northern Ontario swing, and they currently hold the majority of seats in this part of the province. Singh makes an announcement and attends a couple of events in Timmins Sunday before he heads to Toronto. And like with all parties, you can expect the leader debates to be a big focus in the week ahead. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Timmins.
There is much focus lately on Arctic security and resources. That includes breathing life back into northern shipping hubs. The Port of Churchill in Manitoba could play a significant role in strengthening trade across the pond. CTV's Alex Karpa is in the community tonight.
Manitoba may be in the middle of the country, but it still has access to the ocean. In its north sits Churchill, a subarctic port town on the west shore of Hudson Bay. The community is unique, home to the only deepwater seaport in northern Canada that is connected by land to the rest of the country.
What we're really building is trade-enabling infrastructure, and it allows the vast resources of Western Canada access to global markets.
Churchill's port has mainly been used for grain shipments in the past, but began shipping critical minerals in 2024, and there are plans to double those shipments this year, with Churchill well positioned to service the globe.
You know, there's significant shipping and distance advantages for shipping out of Churchill.
Shane Hutchins has worked at the Port of Churchill on and off for the last 2.5 decades. He believes the port could once again become a major Arctic shipping hub.
It's just a matter of putting some money into the infrastructure again. Where that day, I think it could become a reality, a very realistic reality.
Revitalization of the Arctic, including ports like the one here in Churchill, have become a hot topic of conversation in recent months. An aggressive Russia, a persuasive China, and an unpredictable United States are forcing Canada's federal leaders to tackle Arctic issues
head-on. Mark Carney said he'll strengthen Arctic security by investing hundreds of millions to beef up military presence in the north. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is promising a new military base in Nunavut and says he's open to the idea of exporting oil out of ports like Churchill. And all the talk about breathing new life into the Arctic comes as welcome news for those living in the north.
We've always stated that the north would play a role. It's taken a long time. And it's finally happening.
The federal and Manitoba governments have committed nearly $80 million to finishing work on the Hudson Bay Railway and continue redevelopment of the Port of Churchill. Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew says this will help with long-term economic security as Canada's relations with the U.S. remain uncertain. Alex Carpa, CTV News, Churchill, Manitoba.
There's been another twist in U.S. President Trump's sweeping international tariff rollout. The U.S. says it will now exclude some electronics, including smartphones and laptops, from the import levies. The switch is expected to benefit big companies like Apple and Samsung, while keeping prices down on tech products that aren't made in America. Gas prices have dropped across the country after the federal government scrapped the carbon tax, but that's not all that's fueling the lowest prices some Canadians have seen in years. CTV's BC Bureau Chief Andrew Johnson on what's behind the discount and why it's not all good news.
You drive up to the gas station knowing your bank balance is going down.
I got to put in $200 a tank to fill up.
What's less clear is why you sometimes pay more.
They're always too high. Everything is always too high.
And sometimes less.
You trust the gas companies?
Of course not.
Right now, Canadian drivers are getting a break in the wake of the death of the carbon tax.
I'm happy when I have to pay less for gas. I will never complain about paying less.
Compared to this time a year ago, we are paying a lot less. A 39-cent per litre discount in New Brunswick, 38 cents in BC, 36 cents in Ontario, and even a drop in Quebec where carbon pricing remains in effect. Analysts say it's all got a lot to do with Trump.
With the Trump administration kind of actively putting out the threat of tariffs on Canada, we just really haven't seen the annual spring rise in prices this year as significantly as we have in years past.
Uncertainty around the world has led to collapsing oil prices, now hanging around a 4-year low.
Alarm bells going off, just like during COVID. The big drop in gas prices was for bad economic reasons. Very rarely do you see an environment where low gas prices are not being influenced by poor economic outcomes.
So he says when it comes to a cheaper fill-up, be careful what you wish for.
Be careful what you wish for, and don't always cheerlead low gas prices. It could be a harbinger of what's to come.
The analyst we spoke to predicts by the end of the year, if the global economic turmoil stirred up by the Trump trade war continues, Canadians could be paying below $1 per litre for gas. That hasn't happened since the pandemic. Andrew Johnson, CTV News, Vancouver.
Measles outbreaks and exposures have sparked growing concern right across the country. Ontario has had more than 800 infections this year, including more than 155 over the past week. Toronto Public Health now warning of a potential exposure at a concert earlier this month. Cases have also been reported in New Brunswick, Alberta, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, BC, and Quebec. On the East Coast, PEI has confirmed its first measles cases in more than a decade. Roughly 1,000 people from across Ontario and Quebec gathered in Ottawa today for a pro-Palestinian rally on Parliament Hill. Organizers are demanding a permanent ceasefire in the conflict in Gaza, calling on the next Canadian government to institute an arms embargo with Israel.
We're holding this rally during the federal election to put Palestine on the ballot and make the arms embargo a key issue.
The protesters want Canada to impose a two-way embargo that suspends both the sale and purchase of arms and military technology with Israel. Time for a 2-minute break, but when we come back, the billion-dollar ballot box question.
I don't understand how this can't be a campaign issue.
What people affected by extreme weather want to hear from federal leaders. Plus, the Canadian sports team celebrating its inaugural season. Extreme weather in this country caused billions of dollars in damages last year. From wildfires to floods and hailstorms, we've seen catastrophic insurance claims. That has many thinking climate and the environment should be a ballot box question. CTV's Kathy Lee on what people impacted want to see from federal party leaders.
Oh no!
The sky unleashed a torrent of icy fury on parts of Calgary last summer.
The stress level is always there.
Saima Chaudhry has experienced 4 hailstorms in 2 different homes. She says climate and environment issues should be a priority in the election.
I don't understand how this can't be a campaign issue.
Chaudhry wants a national program to retrofit existing homes with better material in high-risk areas and upgrade damaged ones, as her insurance company doesn't cover those costs.
A program for you to get the proper materials into your houses so that you do not have to deal with this repeatedly.
This Jasper resident agrees. He was one of many who lost their homes in the wildfire last year.
A lot of cedar siding and cedar roofs, which are exactly what you call fireproof. Better building material definitely would help.
With severe weather intensifying and becoming more frequent, the other concern for Canadians is insurance premiums rising. The Insurance Bureau of Canada says insured damages caused by severe weather events reached a record last year.
Almost $9 billion in insured losses, which would be almost triple the previous year.
Some are even finding it difficult to get coverage.
My house does not have any hailstorm damage or any roof damage due to the hail, but we fall under those area codes that they have suspended the insurance. It was pretty shocking.
It is likely going to become more difficult to access hail coverage. It'll become more expensive.
Which means homeowners,
that is an enormous burden,
are picking up more of the risk. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.
Still ahead, going elbows up in the pet food aisle. How Canadian patriotism is impacting your pet's meal. Canada's newest sports team received a big welcome today.
1, 2, 3.
The flag for AFC Toronto was raised high above City Hall. The professional women's soccer team is set to hit the pitch next week as part of the brand new Northern Super League. And Canadian Corey Connors in fine form at the storied Masters tournament. The golfer is in 3rd spot at the end of today's round, putting him in contention for the coveted green jacket on Sunday. The drive to buy Canadian is having an impact on a sector you might not have considered. Some pet owners are looking to move away from American products when it comes to feeding their furry friends. CTV's Stéphane Jaroux with how that's playing out.
It's a busy Saturday at the Canine Multisport Complex in Saint-Lazare. Dog owners want the best for their pets. And for co-owner Martin Hogg, this means going all out Canadian.
So first thing was the easiest thing. It was all the treats to change for a Canadian product. Maybe half of them have been changed now. We only have Canadian product now.
The few American treats still on the shelves are now being liquidated.
It was surprisingly not hard, but we find like those. That's food, so it's, and we're really happy.
At the Little Bear store in Westmount, owner Chuck Altman made the same move, but had to warn customers that pets aren't political. They just want their favorite food.
And people were coming in right away saying they only wanted Canadian products. But when it came down to it, like I said, we don't want to really affect the dogs or the cats' daily diets. So we kind of stuck with the best products available, not the best Canadian product.
But Altman soon discovered that his customers didn't mind paying a premium whenever possible to get local pet food and accessories.
In general, Canadian products are a little bit more expensive than American products just because of our economies of scale, but most of the best products that we get are Canadian anyways.
Animal lovers we spoke to say they now check the labels.
I talked to the gentleman that I deal with where I get my food, and he strongly recommended the Canadian.
We've always checked the labels and make sure that it was from here.
As for Martin Hogg, he now wonders why he didn't think of going full Canadian earlier.
And there won't be any turning back, for sure. We're happy to buy all Canadian and Quebec stuff.
Stéphane Giroux, CTV News in Saint-Lazare.
Still ahead, lost and found. A story of a stranger's generosity that spans decades and continents. We leave you tonight with a story about a random internet search that led to a deliberate act of generosity. CTV's Adam Sawatsky tells us how a box full of memories connected a Canadian skating fan with one of his Olympic heroes.
John Watt was searching online for classic cars when he happened upon the sale of vintage sports memorabilia.
It was, wow, I was shocked.
It was Olympic uniforms and international accolades.
And I go, what the heck? It's Gary Beacom. I saw him skate, and he was unbelievable.
Although Gary Beacom was one of our country's top figure skaters, winning world championships before touring the globe as a popular professional, it was someone unrelated to him selling all the stuff.
The first reaction was to secure it. I wanted to protect it.
And then what was the second thought?
Get it to Gary.
Do you know him?
No.
It just felt like the right thing to do, John says. So he bought the box full of athletic history, including Team Canada clothes, dozens of badges and medals, and started searching for Gary across Canada and the U.S. before finally tracking him down in Japan.
Thank you, John Watt. Yes, it's really nice and it's touching.
Gary says the stuff was likely misplaced during his parents' estate sale and is grateful to see it again.
It brings up some nice memories.
Past pride and appreciation, tempered by a present perspective.
Things look so funny. It's kind of out of style.
It's timeless.
It's timeless. It is timeless.
And it is filled with meaning, John says, as he prepares to send the memorabilia back to Gary.
I recognize the effort, the sacrifice.
But Gary recognizes that earning this stuff also required one to be sort of selfish. And the 65-year-old, who now coaches and teaches along with still skating daily, has learned that achieving a happy life requires you to be more selfless.
Sharing of your time or your resources or your knowledge or whatnot.
Which is why this world-class athlete says he's thankful to the efforts of a world-class guy who may have paid hundreds to secure Gary's stuff, but is giving it all back to him for free.
It's not really an effort, it's just a thought in your brain to be considerate, to be kind, and be generous.
Adam Sawatsky, CTV News, Victoria.
Some wise words. That is our newscast for this Saturday night. I'm Heather Butts. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Good night, and I'll see you again tomorrow.